Hello, and welcome to Investment Insight, your clear take on the markets. Let's get started. Today, we're really cracking open two major shifts happening right now, completely different areas, but both with, huge investment implications.
Absolutely. Our mission here is basically to pull out the key nuggets for you, the listener.
Right, so you can walk away feeling like you've got the inside track without sifting through piles of reports.
Exactly. So first up, we've got this massive technological shift in logistics. We're talking autonomous trucking, moving very clearly from testing to actually making money, profitability.
Yeah, that's a huge milestone. We really need to unpack that one.
And then on the flip side, a totally different world, geopolitics. Kind of messy.
Definitely messy. We're looking at the U.S. calling pretty urgently on allies for help against China, specifically on critical supply chains.
But the real story, the insight here is how those allies are responding. Or maybe not responding in the way the U.S. hoped. More like looking out for number one.
It's complex, for sure. But we've dug into the sources. So, all right, let's dive into topic one first. Autonomous trucking. Why is this year, right now, being called commercialization year one?
Okay. So the big news, the thing everyone's pointing to, is that this isn't just an experiment anymore.
Right.
The data shows Aurora Innovation launching actual, fully driverless commercial routes. We're talking Dallas to Houston, Texas.
And when you say fully driverless,
I mean zero human safety driver behind the wheel. None. These are big rigs, 18-wheelers hauling real cargo.
for paying customers.
Yep. Paying customers like FedEx, Uber Freight. This isn't some lab test. It's a live business operation. Generating revenue. It's genuinely a historical moment for the industry.
So what makes it viable now? Is it just the tech finally got good enough?
Well, the tech is part of it, obviously, but the model is just as important. It's this hub-to-hub approach.
Explain that a bit, hub to hub.
Okay, think about driving, right? The easiest part is cruising on the highway. Long, straight stretches, not too much traffic, hopefully.
Yes, set the cruise control and relax, relatively speaking.
Exactly. Now imagine the hardest part. Maybe a parallel parking a giant truck downtown or navigating busy city streets during rush hour.
Right, much harder, stressful.
So the autonomous trucks, they only do the easy part. The highway driving, from one designated transfer hub, say outside Dallas, to another hub outside Houston.
Ah, okay, so they stick to the simple interstate driving.
Precisely. Then a human driver takes over for the tricky last mile, getting it through the city streets, backing it to the loading dock, all that complex stuff.
So it's like they carved out the easiest bit for the robots.
That's a great way to put it. And by doing that, by focusing the autonomy on the simplest task, they found the quickest route to actually making money from it.
But wait, doesn't that handoff slow things down? Swapping between the autonomous system and a human driver at each end? Doesn't that introduce inefficiency?
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But the analysis we've seen suggests, not really. Or at least the benefits far outweigh that.
That's it.
Because most of the time, and most of the miles on a long-haul trip are spent on that simple highway segment, maybe 80% or more.
Okay.
So if you can optimize that huge chunk, let the truck drive 24/7, no mandated breaks for drivers, no fatigue issues, the time and cost savings are just enormous. They dwarf the few minutes needed for the handoffs at the hubs.
Got it. And behind all this, the fundamental reasons haven't changed, right? Why companies are pushing this so hard?
No, those are rock solid. First, you've still got a major shortage of human truck drivers. It's persistent, it's pushing wages up. That's a big pain point for logistics companies.
And then cost savings potential?
It's massive. The projections are pretty stark. By 2030, the cost per mile for an autonomous truck could be down to something like 67% of what it costs with a human driver.
Wow, a third cheaper.
Yeah. And in logistics, where profit margins can be incredibly thin, that kind of cost difference isn't just nice to have, it feels inevitable.
Okay, but there's always a but, isn't there? The big hurdle seems to be regulation.
Absolutely. That's the major roadblock right now. Imagine, an autonomous truck is perfectly legal driving itself across Texas.
Uh-huh.
But the moment it hits the state line into, say, New Mexico or California, the rules change. Maybe it's not legal there without a safety driver or at all. It's a complete patchwork.
So you can't really run a national network like that.
Not efficiently. Which is why there's this big push in Congress for something called the Safe Truck Act.
Safe Truck Act. Okay, what's the goal there?
It's a bipartisan proposal, importantly. The idea is to create one single, unified set of federal rules for autonomous trucking across the entire U.S.
So one standard for everyone, everywhere.
Exactly. If that passes, companies could operate nationwide under one clear framework. It's really designed to speed up commercial deployment.
But that sounds like it would face some serious opposition.
Oh, definitely. You got powerful groups like the Teamsters Union fighting it hard, primarily over job losses for their drivers.
Makes sense.
And safety advocacy groups are raising concerns too, about the technology's readiness for widespread, unsupervised use. So, the battle over this Safe Truck Act, that's probably the biggest question mark hanging over the industry's timeline right now.
Okay, so let's zoom out. Investment implications. Why is the thinking here that autonomous trucking is a clearer investment bet than, say, robotaxis? I mean, robotaxis seems splashier, maybe?
They do get a lot of headlines. But think about the environment. Robotaxis have to deal with incredibly complex, unpredictable city streets. Pedestrians, cyclists, double-parked cars, weird intersections. It's chaos.
Right, much harder problem to solve.
Orders of magnitude harder. Plus, the customer is the general public, which can be unpredictable. Trucking, though, it's mostly predictable highway environments.
Simpler domain.
Much simpler. And your customers are businesses, logistics firms like FedEx. They have clear needs. Cut costs, solve the driver shortage. The value proposition is very direct, very tangible.
Even with that regulatory hurdle at the national level you mentioned, robotaxis mostly deal with local or state rules, right? Isn't that easier?
It might seem easier initially because it's local, but the technical complexity of the city environment for robotaxis is just so much higher. The trucking path, focusing on highways first, is seen as more defined, more reliable for reaching profitability, even factoring in the need for that federal legislation.
Okay, that clarifies the distinction. So, if you're convinced trucking is the clearer path, how do you invest? The sources seem to point to two main strategies. First one, bet on the winners in what looks like a winner-take-all or winner-take-most market.
Yeah, that's the thinking. This takes immense capital, cutting-edge tech. It's unlikely you'll have, 10 successful autonomous trucking companies, probably just a few leaders.
So who are the main players to watch?
Right now, the analysis consistently points to three key names. First, Aurora Innovation. They're seen as the frontrunner because they're the first ones actually running commercial loads without a safety driver.
Okay, first mover advantage.
Then you have Kodiak Robotics. They're characterized as a fast follower, and they've got really strong partnerships lined up with major trucking and logistics companies. Partnerships matter a lot here.
And the third one, Wabi. You called them a dark horse. What's their angle?
Wabi's approach is fascinating. They lean heavily on AI simulation. Instead of needing massive fleets of trucks driving endless real-world miles, which is super expensive and slow,
Right.
they run billions of virtual miles in incredibly realistic simulations. This lets them test, debug, and improve their AI much, much faster and cheaper. It's a very capital-efficient way to develop the tech.
So they could potentially leapfrog others with less physical testing?
That's the bet. It allows for faster iteration, potentially safer development too, because you can test endless weird edge cases virtually before you ever put a truck on the actual road. It's a really interesting differentiator.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, the second strategy you mentioned is for investors who think picking the final winner out of Aurora, Kodiak, and Wabi is just too hard.
Exactly. If picking the winner feels like guesswork, you can invest in the companies selling the essential tools to everyone. The picks and shovels play, like in a gold rush.
Right. So what are the picks and shovels here?
Think about what every autonomous truck needs, no matter whose software is running it. It needs eyes and a brain.
Eyes and a brain, okay?
The eyes are the sensors. We're talking high-performance LiDAR companies like Luminar are often mentioned, plus advanced radar and cameras. You need multiple types for redundancy in different conditions.
But aren't sensors becoming commodities? Won't prices just fall?
Eventually, maybe. But right now, the performance required for level 45 autonomy is still incredibly high-end. These aren't basic backup cameras. They're sophisticated, specialized pieces of kit. There's still significant value there.
Okay, and the brain.
That's the high-performance computing needed onboard the truck to process all that sensor data and make driving decisions in real time. Companies like NVIDIA, with their Drive platform, are major players here. They provide the core computational power.
So, sensors and computing. Anyone else in the picks and shovels category?
Yeah, don't forget the truck manufacturers themselves. The traditional OEMs like PACCAR, Daimler Truck, Volvo. They're not building the core AI, usually, but they are building the autonomous-ready trucks. They partner with the tech firms to integrate the systems onto chassis designed for autonomy from the ground up. They're essential enablers.
Got it. So invest in the leaders or invest in their suppliers. Clear strategies.
Now, should we shift gears? from tech saving money to geopolitics costing money.
Yeah, let's pivot. The second topic feels like a completely different universe. We're looking at the cold, hard reality of global supply chains.
It gets complicated fast here.
It really does. The trigger seems to be this urgent statement from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent back on October 15th. He was essentially calling on U.S. allies to form a united front against China.
And the specific reason: China's dominance over rare earth elements, RDEs. His claim is that China is using this control as an economic weapon.
Maybe quickly define REs for folks who aren't familiar.
Sure, rare earth elements aren't actually always that rare, but they're hard to mine and process cleanly. There's 17 of them on the periodic table, and they're absolutely critical for modern tech.
Like what?
Well, everything from magnets in electric vehicle motors and wind turbines to lasers, missile guidance systems, fighter jets, even things like fiber optics and smartphone screens. They're indispensable for defense and green tech.
And China controls most of the processing.
Overwhelmingly dominates the processing, yeah, which leads to the American dilemma.
Right. The U.S. doesn't have enough capacity to mine and especially process these REs domestically at scale.
Correct. So they need help. According to the sources, the U.S. needs Japan's advanced materials know-how, Europe's processing technology expertise, and South Korea's skills in applying these materials in finished products.
Right.
They need a coalition to build an alternative supply chain.
A necessary coalition, it sounds like, but the response.
That's the key insight from the material we reviewed. Despite the urgent U.S. plea, the allies are basically giving Washington the cold shoulder.
A cold shoulder? Why?
The overriding theme is this shift towards each man for himself. There's actually a Korean phrase used in the analysis, kakshadoseng, which literally means each person lives for themselves. It captures this idea that national self-interest is now trumping alliance solidarity.
Kakja-doseng. Okay, so how is this playing out specifically? What are the allies actually doing?
Well, they're taking different paths, but none of them involve simply lining up behind the U.S. Let's take the EU first.
Okay, Europe.
They talk about strategic autonomy. They agree with the U.S. concerns about China's dominance, sure. But they explicitly said they're focusing on their own plan, the Critical Raw Materials Act, or CRMA.
Their own internal strategy.
Exactly. It's about diversifying their supply chains, building their resilience. It's not about joining a U.S.-led bloc unquestioningly. They're looking out for Europe first.
Okay, so the EU is going its own way. What about Japan?
Japan's approach is described as quiet realpolitik. They're not making loud pronouncements, but they are making independent deals.
Like?
They're strengthening partnerships for RE development and refining technology directly with countries like Australia and Vietnam. They're not waiting for a grand coalition led by Washington. They're securing their own supplies pragmatically, quietly.
Makes sense from their perspective. And Korea, you said their response showed the most friction.
Yeah, South Korea's reaction is really revealing. On one hand, they agree cooperation is needed. But internally, the reporting suggests deep frustration.
Frustration about what?
About the contradiction. They see the U.S. asking for solidarity against China on REEs, while at the same time, the Trump administration is maintaining tariff threats against major Korean industries, like autos and biotech.
Ah, so help us fight China, but we might still hit you with tariffs.
Pretty much. So Korea seems to be viewing this U.S. request more as leverage, a chance to maybe negotiate better terms for themselves on trade, using their cooperation on REEs as a bargaining chip.
Wow. So the common thread here is a lack of trust, isn't it?
Absolutely. The sources directly attribute this reluctance, this each man for himself attitude, to the America First rhetoric and the unpredictable use of tariffs under the current administration. Allies feel they can't rely on consistent U.S. policy.
That perceived unreliability really corrodes alliances.
It does, and that's the huge macro shift for investors to understand. Forget simple narratives. The era of assuming unwavering allied support based on decades of diplomacy seems to be fading. It's being replaced by something much more transactional.
Which means the world isn't just G2 anymore, U.S. versus China.
Exactly. That binary view is too simplistic now.
Yeah.
We're firmly in a multipolar world. You have these significant middle powers, the EU, Japan, Korea, and they're actively playing the field, maximizing their own interests in the space between the U.S. and China.
So for investors,
Stop thinking purely in U.S. versus China terms. Look for the opportunities popping up because of these complex individual national interests. It's a much more fragmented landscape.
okay, so how does that translate into investment strategy? If allies are going their own way, where's the opportunity?
Well, first, broaden your horizons beyond just the U.S. The effort to build supply chains outside of China Desinization benefits more than just American companies.
Like MP materials, which gets mentioned a lot in the U.S. context.
Right. But look wider. Think about the raw material producers who will supply these new chains, places like Australia, Canada. They're seeing new investment.
Okay, miners.
And the tech processors. Japan and the EU have key roles there, as we discussed. And then the alternative manufacturing hubs, countries like Vietnam, maybe Indonesia, Mexico, places, getting new factories built as companies diversify away from China. It's a global reshuffling.
That makes sense. A broader geographic lens. Is there another angle?
Yes.
Yeah.
Policy-induced innovation. This whole dilemma, the U.S. needing REE alternatives because China dominates and allies are hesitant. It creates a powerful incentive.
An incentive to invent new stuff.
Basically, yes. It's almost like a Sputnik moment for materials science. U.S. policy isn't just about funding. It's pushing for entirely new technologies to sidestep China's chokehold. Investors should look for companies developing tech that eliminates the need for rare earths.
Can you give examples?
Sure. Think about electric motors. Instead of relying on traditional rare earth magnets, look at companies developing high-performance, non-RE permanent magnets, maybe using advanced ferrets.
Motors without rare earths?
Exactly. Or in energy storage. Look beyond lithium-ion batteries, which often rely on Chinese processing. Consider alternative chemistries like sodium-ion batteries. These technologies that reduce or eliminate RE dependence are likely to get significant government backing and policy support.
Fascinating. So finding the tech that solves the geopolitical problem.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
It's where policy necessity meets technological opportunity.
Okay, that's a lot to digest. Two huge distinct trends.
Let's try to synthesize. On one hand, we have autonomous trucking hitting commercial viability, driven by cost savings, enabled by that clever hub-to-hub model, even with regulatory hurdles remaining. That feels like technological momentum.
Right. Almost inevitable, just a question of timing.
And on the other hand, we have this messy geopolitical reality. Global supply chains fracturing, allies prioritizing self-interest, a shift to a multipolar competitive system where trust is low and transactions are key.
Driven by policy choices and national interests.
Exactly. Two powerful forces reshaping different parts of the investment landscape.
So maybe the final thought for you, our listener, to chew on is this. When you look at your own portfolio, which underlying trend are you potentially underestimating right now? Is it the sheer speed and economic force of a technology like autonomous trucking that just saves businesses money?
Or is it the growing chaos and uncertainty caused by this geopolitical fracturing, the rise of each man for himself, and maybe the long-term ripple effects of America First policies on global cooperation?
Which one poses the bigger risk or maybe the bigger hidden opportunity for your investments going forward? Something to think about.
Definitely food for thought as you navigate these markets.
Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button.